Direct from Montreal, Canada, this is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone from the band Buckcherry, it is guitarist Stevie D. The latest album, Warpaint, came out in 2019. If you haven't checked it out, do so as soon as you can. The band is touring all through 2020, and we discuss everything Buckcherry, one of my favorite bands, as folks who follow me online might know. But before we get over to Stevie D, just real quick, the Rock and Roll Hall of Shame recently announced its 2020 nominees, and listen, I'm not even going to bother going over who they decided to put in the hall this year. It is beyond ridiculous, as it is almost every year. But I am going to say this. I'm going to share my list of 10 bands that are missing from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm going to, no particular order. It's a random order, but I still have to go from top to bottom at some point. Number one for me is Foreigner. Foreigner invented, if you want, sort of that arena rock. The very sort of safe, rocky song that we all sort of love, and, bands like Bryan Adams and stuff emulated later. And their first 5 albums were on Billboard's top 5. To have a hit first album or a hit second album, I mean, you look at Bon Jovi, they only became anything by their third album. So the first 5 albums in the top 5 on Billboard's 200 album chart to me is impressive. Now, is that the only reason why they should get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? No, of course not. But you look at the music, Jukebox Hero, Want to Know What Love Is, etc., etc. They are as part of the American fabric, American culture, world culture as any song or as any band. Anyway, number 2 on my list of bands missing from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is Iron Maiden. And I know Iron Maiden don't give a rat's behind about being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but respectfully, they belong in there, just like Notorious B.I.G. If Notorious B.I.G. is a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, I'm assuming that Bruce Dickinson, Steve Harris, and the boys also qualify. Number 3, Judas Priest. They have been nominated twice, haven't gotten in, and of course the band are great heavy metal contributors, innovators. They started the scene, they invented the scene, they invented the look. I think the leather and studs, honestly, that has to be Judas Priest that came up with the whole heavy metal look. But listen, we can argue about that at some other point. Number 4 on my list of bands that belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is Duran Duran. And you're thinking, why is a rock guy talking about Duran Duran? Well, listen, I'm just making a list of people I think belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And when you look at the movement, the new romantics, and everything that was going on in the 80s, the advent of video, what they did with Rio and Girls on Film and some of those videos, that changed music television, and the albums and the look, and the preppy rock of the 80s, that is all Duran Duran. So if again, Notorious B.I.G. or Patti Smythe are Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, certainly Duran Duran deserves a nod. Then I will move on to Motorhead. Do I even need to explain? No, I'm just going to move along. Let's get over to number 6, Motley Crue. Love them, hate them, whatever you want, Motley Crue deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because I believe that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, part of its, if you want, mandate is that bands have to have affected culture, changed things, become part of the cultural history of a country. And Motley Crue, with all their shenanigans on stage and off, certainly have changed the way things are perceived and taken in the rock and roll world. And bands that came after them certainly tried to emulate them. And you had older bands like Kiss, Motley Crue copied Kiss, and then by 1989, and Kiss was copying Motley Crue. The Scorpions, 50 years of rock, still delivering new albums, still delivering tours, still delivering high quality, high octane rock and roll. You look at Michael Schenker, Uli John Roth, and all the members of that band that have gone on and are revered by musicians around the world. If you don't think the Scorpions belong, I don't know how to convince you. They do. Ozzy Osbourne is in, of course, with Black Sabbath, but I do believe that his solo career is equally Hall of Fameable, if that's a word, and so Ozzy certainly belongs in there. Let's go on to Megadeth. Metallica got in, and when we talk about those bands and that thrash metal or that heavy metal genre, Metallica might certainly be number one, especially of bands coming out of the 80s scenes. Megadeth would have to be number two, the big four. Now, do I believe everybody in the big four deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? No, absolutely not. If they get in, will I be upset? No, absolutely not. If the other guys on the big four, Slayer and Anthrax, get inducted, bravo. Am I going to petition to get like an Anthrax? No. Great band, yes. Rock and Roll Hall of Famers? I'll let somebody else decide that. And then last and not least, I am going to go with Huey Lewis and the News. And folks are going to scratch their heads and go, what did they do? Again, they sort of defined everything about the 80s. That sports album, I Want a New Drug, the videos, MTV, their effect on movies like Back to the Future. Have they had an incredible output of albums? No, they're limited in their output, but I'm going to go back to it. Did they affect culture? I believe they did. So therefore, I believe they belong. And speaking of We Belong, Pat Benatar was up for a nomination this year, did not get in. Didn't make my list, but does she belong? Absolutely. And here we go. Let's get on to the interview. Enough rock talk. Let's talk some rock with Buckcherry guitarist Stevie D. Here he is. The one, the only, Stevie D. We are speaking with Buckcherry guitarist Stevie D. Stevie, as you know, big fan, love everything you do, but as we say in Montreal, bonjour, how are you?
Bonjour, Mitch Lafon. How are you, mon frère?
Good. I am awesome. And I was telling you just off air, but I when I get into bands, I go down these rabbit holes where I make these incredibly obnoxious playlists of X amount of songs, and yours right now is sitting at 193 songs, 12 hours, and for the last month or so,
goodness.
I know it's crazy, and I'm not done. I've still got some outtakes and stuff that are going to show up soon, so it's going to be like a 200 and something soon, but I essentially play it.
My goodness.
It takes me
Who
about
knew that we had that much material?
I know. Well, there's all kinds of live stuff, and of course, I have included Josh Todd The Conflict, Spraygun War, and Josh's solo album of 2003. But let us get into new stuff. And by the way, I have to say, not this has anything to do with the band, but on this playlist, when you mix in the Warpaint songs, and they sort of, you put them back to back with a Lit Up or a Crazy Bitch or some of the classic stuff. They fit like a glove. They just slide right in. So let's talk.
I think that I think that was important to us when the band splintered. That when in the writing process, it was important to me to keep what was important and key. And the spirit of Buckcherry and what that is in my mind and my heart and in Josh's heart and mind and it was important to keep that intact. So in writing, that was definitely in the forefront of the process. And then, once we got like 10, 20 songs, then we started stretching out a little bit further because it's hard to, sometimes you, in the process, you block. So I started writing beyond that, and then kind of reeling it back in. Once the song was, I had the nuts and bolts of the song, then I would dial it back and kind of think about, okay, what's Buckcherry about this, and kind of do rewrites and that kind of thing, you know.
Well, listen, it's working. So talk to me a little bit about the band's sound. Now, of course, you weren't there in the beginning, we know. But when they came out of the box, everybody went, oh, here's this rock band that has the grit and tenacity of an Aerosmith and a Rolling Stones, and started naming a lot of these sort of older classic bands, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
But then you listen to... No, it's all right. It's great. But then you listen to, Josh Todd and The Conflict, you listen to Warpaint, you listen to the FUCK one. There's a bit of funk going on in there, or modern day hip hop in some of the songs. Talk to me about sort of moving away from that old school sound and creating this whole new thing. And is there a danger that if you start getting too hip hoppy or too that fans will go, oh wait, I like the Aerosmith thing though?
But I think here's the thing. I don't know if it's so much moving away from kind of who we are. I think it's just showing another side of, what we've all been influenced by, or we're all, fans of funk music and R&B and soul. And I think a lot of the bands that we're influenced by, like the Rolling Stones, or even if it's Black Crowes, or bands that have the rock and the roll, I think they're influenced by R&B and soul music as well. Maybe ours might be a little newer. We like Prince too, and we like modern hip hop and old hip hop too. So I think now that the lineup has changed, that it kind of freed us up to maybe express ourselves a little bit more. There's different writers now, so. I think on the, let's say Crazy Bitch, when we recorded that, there's a funk element to that too. There's a funk element to Tight Pants, that was on the Rock and Roll album. So I don't think we're really getting, it's not really a departure on who we are. I think we're just showing a little bit more depth, than we were.
So let me ask you about maybe not departure from the sound here, but let me talk about the other projects real quick. You had Spraygun War, and also Josh Todd and the Conflict, which was why, for example, was Josh Todd and the Conflict not a Buckcherry album? Because the band had changed, and essentially Buckcherry is now you and Josh, right? Mm-hmm. It's a great core.
When Keith and Xavier left, we were in the midst of taking a break, and we said, we were going to take a 6-month break because we had just toured too much, and we exhausted all the markets, and it's difficult to go out and the success that we had and have those diminishing returns. So it was suggested, why don't you stay home, let the demand kind of go up again, and then you can start touring again. And at that point, a couple guys left. So it was suggested to us again, well, why don't you tour as, why don't you create some new music? Because Josh and I wanted to keep working. So write some new music, go out and tour, and we'll do it under a different name. And that's when Josh Todd The Conflict was born,
Okay, now it was born out of that.
The Spraygun War, that one was created solely as a vehicle to create music for his skate website. So he was selling T-shirts and skateboards and all that kind of stuff. And Josh came to me and said he wanted a different vibe. So it was done in hotel rooms and on the bus and, in my laundry room at my old house. So that was fun.
That's kind of fun. And there's a song
Yeah.
on there called Fury, which if folks haven't heard, they should definitely check out. And so that was, as you said, for his skater thing. Was that then just, it's 5 songs and I'll put it on my skater website and create some content and that's it, that's all?
Yeah.
Or do you see yourself going forward with it down the road and doing another 5 songs?
I don't know that we're going to do, and revisit that anytime soon. We could. It's just another, I don't know, kind of outlet to be creative. If anything, we would probably revisit The Conflict again sooner than Spraygun War.
Yeah.
And that would The Conflict was our chance to revisit our heavier roots, and then add some electronics to it, and also stay a little funky. But it was more about being heavy, really.
Well, for folks that haven't heard The Conflict, and I'm going to fanboy for a second, but that album is fucking brilliant. That song Rain is brilliant. Fucked Up is brilliant. The Prince cover of Erotic City is brilliant.
That was a labor of love.
That's a great album. Okay,
really, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so you mentioned you had exhausted the market with the tours, and that's why you had these opportunities. Talk to me about the marketplace for Buckcherry these days, because I know we sat on a bus and we talked about the singles for the Warpaint album, and it was like, man, radio is just giving us a fucking hard time. What do we do? How important is radio for you at this point? Because, when I think of a band like Motley Crue or Kiss or Def Leppard, they don't give a fuck. They just go do what they do. Yeah,
but they also came out at a time and had a success that was different than ours. So they can go out because their catalog was so successful and their tour, previous tours. I mean, those guys have all sold over 10 million records. You know what I mean? So it's a lot easier for them to go have a stadium tour, which is awesome. Rock is still alive and selling out stadiums. I think for us, radio it's important, but it wasn't, it's not the answer for, it doesn't need to be the answer for us, because we also built a great touring business, and we can still go out and still, sell out wherever we play. It would be nice to have the radio support, but it wasn't necessary during the Warpaint tour.
Yeah, it wasn't. All right, so let me ask you this. I have felt, and even yesterday Eddie Trunk was talking about this, about bands that should have been bigger than they are, and I've always felt that Buckcherry is definitely an arena band and should be an arena band, and you're not right now, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, obviously. But
No. I mean, we were, but, things change.
Right, so what is the change? What was the change? Is it just plain old marketplace, kind of boring, reread it in a textbook kind of, the market changed? Or were there mistakes made along the way where you think, shit, we shouldn't have done that. Maybe we should have done this kind of song instead of that kind of, where do you think that?
I mean, well, you can't really write to chase the, what's going on out there. You can't, I don't think you're being, you got to stay true to who you are. And I think Buckcherry has never been a band that's kind of doing what everyone else is doing. When the band came out in '98, there was a lot of different music going on, and then 2005 there was a lot of pop punk happening. Back in '98 there was a lot of bands that sounded like Korn. So and we've always been that rock and roll band in the eye of all those storms. So I think now, I kind of lost where I was going with it. Right. But I think, just staying true to who you are, is kind of what we've always done. And I think in getting successful has been icing on the cake for us.
It really has. All right, so let's stay to Sticking True, and we'll start going talking about the new band stuff. But there is this collaboration with rapper, and I call him WifisFuneral because that's how I see how it's spelled. But talk to me about working with him and redoing that Crazy Bitch and reworking that song, and I guess,
right.
I mean, sort of making it for the kids in a sense, right?
Yeah, in a way, like we're not the first guys to do it. Aerosmith did it, a long time ago with Run DMC. So I got together with the idea. Josh has always been talking about it for years. Like I remember hearing about this 10 years ago, and then Larry Mazer, our manager, brought it up. They kind of brainstormed. They got together with another. We first started talking about it with Sony, and then we got with an independent guy, and he and Larry, our manager, knew Joe Nicolo, one of the Butcher brothers in Philly, and he knew he had a bunch of artists ready to go. But there was one up-and-coming guy who's blowing up on social media and on YouTube and Spotify. His numbers were through the roof. And, to be honest, I don't live in that world, so I don't know who's popular and who's up-and-coming. And they suggested WifisFuneral. And this kid was killing it. Like I would ask my friends if they knew who he was, and they were all familiar with him, and a lot of the younger set that I asked, they were all familiar with him. And then I went down to the video shoot, and this guy was unbelievably talented. But no, let me go cycle back. I got together with Joe Nicolo from he was a Butcher brother from Rough House Records, and gave him a couple of different treatments of what Crazy Bitch could be like. One slower BPM, one the same BPM is the rock version. And we ended up going with the rock version. So went into some programming. Joe had his son get in on the mix because he's steeped in that world. So the end result was, in my opinion, something amazing. So you'll see on January 10th.
I can't wait. And by the way, you're right. I didn't think about the Aerosmith Run DMC thing. Of course, Public Enemy and Anthrax, and of course recently Post Malone and Ozzy. I mean, it's
yeah. I mean, it's been going on for years. People have been trying it. I don't think a lot of people were as successful as Aerosmith and Run DMC. I know a lot of bands have tried, like I think Snoop Dogg's done something with some rock bands. I can honestly say that this version of Crazy Bitch is a legit hip hop song. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people that attempt it ends up sounding like a rap rock song. So this one's just a straight up hip hop tune, and it's a little faster than most hip hop songs, but I think it's a killer tune.
Oh, I can't wait. Now, of course, Warpaint came out last year. Where does that put us in terms of new music? Do you let it ride out for another couple of years, or do you get back in there and start thinking about the next new one? And does the next new one also include Mike? And I'll do my best on his name, but Plotnikov, I believe, right? The producer.
Plotnikov, it is. Well, in today's day and age, with social media making everything go by so much quicker, record cycles usually lasted, I'd say, a couple of years. You could tour on a record for a couple of years. And now, I think right around now is when we released Warpaint, or maybe in the next few months. But I think, Warpaint, we toured the shit out of that. Can I swear? I'm sorry, beep that out.
No,
we
swear away
on that for the whole last year, and I think we did 150 some shows. We were gone for 200 some days. I mean, that's a lot, So now, we have WifisFuneral version of Crazy Bitch coming out. And then after that, we have a couple of acoustic songs. There's just so much more because of social media content that we're releasing, that we're always doing something. You know what I mean? Whether it's touring or recording at home or, just filming something for social media. So is Plotnikov going to be part of the new releases? I hope so. I think we'll probably do another full-length record by maybe end of summer, maybe. But we're constantly working on stuff. And these next few songs, we got something coming up I can't tell you about, but right after WifisFuneral, we do have a couple acoustic songs coming out.
Oh, good. Well, hopefully you'll make them.
I can tell you.
Hopefully you'll make them available on some kind of CD so I can buy it. I'm old school. I need to own stuff. I don't like air. I like real stuff. Let me just real quickly ask you about the album everybody asks you about, of course, 15. That one relaunched the band. The band had done what they did. They disappeared. They broke up. Mm-hmm. They changed members. And then you come in, Xavier comes in, Jimmy comes in. How much pressure did you feel coming into this band? And were you guys, sort of three new guys, were you just three sort of studio guys, we'll see how it works? Or was there, no, this is a team, this is a band?
I can tell you this, there was not even a little pressure. You know what I mean? We were all friends at that point. I was in actually Josh's solo band just before that. And then we were all at a place where we had nothing to lose. You know what I mean? I think we all locked arms. We all had the same vision. We were all on the same page, and we locked arms and we started working towards this goal. And initially Keith came to me and he asked me if I wanted to do a show with Buckcherry at the Key Club. And I was like, yeah. And we got into a rehearsal room and it sounded amazing. And he said, we're going to start writing songs. If you want to do this, bring your rent money on Tuesday. I believe that's how it went. So it was that matter of factly. So, there was no pressure because we were kind of in a place that there was, there was nothing riding on it. You know what I mean? It was just like we were kind of at this place where we could do it or not, or, and there was no record company or there was no manager or nothing. It was just five guys in a room. So, go figure.
Go figure.
Thing blew up.
Oh, it completely blew up, and that's where I became a fan. When Lit Up came out and For the Movies and Lawless and Lulu and stuff, I was still very dearly holding on to Def Leppard and Bon Jovi, which I still love, but I didn't want to let go. And so it's like, it's the new band. Fuck the new band, right? But by the time 15 came out, forget that attitude. The songs were like Next to You. Everything is like an all-time favorite. The music was just so good that even the old guy had to go, okay, fuck it. This band's good.
I mean, look, there's room for everybody. You know what I mean? It's like a lot. There's just room for everyone. So I don't know, like hanging on to you can still listen to all that stuff, Buckcherry came by and, put us in there too,
You have now. So let me ask you just real quick before we start wrapping up. But the band has done a lot of different covers, a lot of different styles. You've gone from Elvis Costello with Pump It Up to Aerosmith with Mama Kin to Beast of Burden to Erotic City, even though that's Josh Todd and the Conflict. Talk to me about the songs that you choose, because they're not necessarily always the big hits, but they're the songs that are very important to that artist in a sense, right?
Yeah, had like a hole. It was like that was pretty big for us,
Yeah.
I think it's an homage, I think it's stuff that we like to play, we don't always, when we got into a rehearsal, and we don't always play Buckcherry stuff. Sometimes we, to get warmed up, we start playing riffs from other people. That's how we, learn to do what we do, is just by playing other people's music. And it's fun, and then there's no pressure, sound check, we do the same thing. So I think it's more it's just a fun way to go into a day playing music. Now recording it, I think it's just kind of the way it is right now. A lot of bands cover music and put it out, you know what I mean, and it gets successful or not, but I think we've done kind of the deeper tracks. We've done the hits from other people. So it's all a labor of love.
Listen, I can't complain. I mean, your version of Rock and Roll Damnation is fantastic. I do I want everything for the Sammy Hagar. Who's the other guy who did that song? It was Sammy Hagar and Rick Springfield. Hey, your version is better. Yeah. I love your version of Highway Star. It's
right. That was the fun one too. I forgot about that. Yeah, there's a great video for that too.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're gonna do some of that this year. It's easy to do, and there's really no pressure in doing it. And there's, because of social media and here today, gone later today, we can put it out, and it's just fun content. Keeps people connected.
I fully agree. You can do that all day long. I will ask you just real quick. Josh has mentioned that there might be a 15th anniversary reissue of 15. Is that still on the plate?
I don't know anything about it, but anything's possible. I don't think that it would take a lot to reissue that album.
Plenty of bonus tracks lying around. And then for fans that were listening earlier, you mentioned Larry Mazer, and for those keeping score, he of course managed Kiss during the Revenge era in '92, and Cinderella for a while as well. Does he tell you a lot of Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons stories? Does he? He managed Lamb of God too.
I've got a few stories on. He managed Pat Benatar. He's mentioned a few stories about Cinderella, but a lot of times, he's always on the go, so we don't sit down and talk a lot. Like, he mentioned stuff. Oh yeah, I managed them, like Lamb of God or Breaking Benjamin, or so-and-so's crazy, or so-and-so's awesome, but it's mostly a Buckcherry business all the time,
Good. And then
I'd love to give you some dirt on Gene or Paul, but I don't really have any.
No, but
except for the stuff that I saw when on tour.
Oh, that's right. You did that tour in 2009, I guess it was, right?
We did a few tours with them.
Right. In fact, the whole Live and Loud album is from that tour.
Yeah. Is that? I wasn't sure. It was that or Motley.
Well, I'm trying to think. Yeah. It was all recorded most of it was recorded in Canada, because you'll say, "Hey, Calgary," and "Hey, Edmonton." So I think that was on the Kiss tour, actually.
Are you sure? I thought not. It might be Crew Fest. No. I don't remember.
Hold on. This is why we have a
long time ago.
This is why we have computers. Let's see. Buckcherry's live album was recorded in Medicine Hat. Yada yada yada. No, it doesn't say what tour it was. I was convinced it was opening for Kiss, but I definitely could be wrong. I will go check that. And
there were, we've toured with both right around the same time as each other, and so it could have been. Could have been.
Either way, it's a great album. It works out. And then a last word here, just real quick. On the new members, you, of course, have Kelly, Lemieux, who spent some time working for Dave Mustaine in the project MD45. You've got Kevin, and of course Francis Ruiz, who used to drum tech for the Mighty Slayer. How is that band coming together? And I have to say, and no disrespect to Sean, who played on the album, but the way Francis approached the tracks, he's in the pocket, man. He's nailing that stuff.
He is a monster. He's a godsend. He's one of the nicest human beings you've ever met. I can't say enough good things about that guy. I mean, he's helped me in my personal life. Just like, I was going through a rough patch earlier, 2019, and we were in England. He's just a solid guy. I mean, he, on top of being, a monster player, I mean, he's played with Motorhead. He's played with a bunch of different people. He's also teched for a bunch of people like Scorpions and Slayer, and Black Label, and everybody, across the board knows that he's a solid human being. Kelly, he was with, like Dave Mustaine, but he was also with Goldfinger for a number of years. He's played in Fear. He's played with everybody, even to Paul Gilbert, Also Kevin Rentgen. We were friends from way back in the day. All of us were. We had all sat around and drank at mine and Josh's old apartment back in the early 90s. But yeah, Kevin, he was in a huge band in England. And then he was also, more importantly, part of this band called Soul, who's going to be coming out with something later this year. But yeah, he was in a band called Goldsboro. And so, yeah, and he also fronted a band called American Pearl that was out and about, I think it was around 99, 2000. So, yeah, all solid players, all professional, and all great human beings, that we've known forever. So.
Yeah. So anyway, the band sounds great, and everything sounds great, and so of course fans should check out Buckcherry, check out Warpaint, great new album which came out, I guess, what was it, in March? Let me see if I can recommend songs for you. All right, here, let me recommend these ones. Back Down, Bent, Radio Song, Jungle Love, and if you can get yourself the Japanese import, Kamikaze as well. There you go. Those are my recommendations.
Yeah.
And on that, I will say merci, because we are at half an hour. And I'll just say this about Francis. He played with C.C. DeVille in Samantha 7 back in whatever it was, 96, 97. That's when I first met him. And like you said, he's been a solid guy. He's kept in touch all these years. We did some Samantha 7 interviews, and he's just stayed in touch all these years. And for me, I know that he was happy teching, but I know he's happier playing. And it's just nice to see him in his... Yeah, right? He's in his happy place,
in his element. When he gets behind that kit, man, there's few guys that really come to life like he does. You know what I mean? And it's just like, he's a monster. And I fucking love that guy. So I love all these guys.
Well, let's just hope that the band stays together in this new formation. I know there's always the few straggler fans that say, well, it's not Buckcherry without... Well, okay, maybe not. But this is a new Buckcherry. It's a great Buckcherry. And live, which is where it matters, you deliver every fucking time. I think I saw 2 shows or 3 shows this year. I'm ready for another 30. Let's go.
Let's go. Dude, fly out. We're going to do a string of LA dates.
Yeah. So, I'm there. The more Buckcherry, the better. And, I can't complain. And I'm trying to figure out where you were playing in 2009, but I'm not getting any success as I type away here. But I will figure it out and let fans.
Okay.
I have the.
It's probably, it's probably Kiss, because if it's 2009, it was probably Kiss and Motley. But, you know, we did a string of dates. We did tours in Canada with Motley, so just before that. So I don't know.
The great Mr.
Let me know when you find out.
All right, here, hold on here. Let's type in Buckcherry 2009 tour. Let's fucking figure this out. Oh, it doesn't tell me. It says Buckcherry and Avenged Sevenfold. Buckcherry. Forget it. I will figure it out later. But as we say,
that's another thing. I mean, it could have been while we were headlining with Avenged Sevenfold.
Oh, here it is. All right, let's see. No, Buckcherry, Avenged Sevenfold, Papa Roach, that ended in February, and these were recorded in March. So whoever it was in March 2009, I will figure it out and let fans know. On that, sir, thank you for doing this. Always a pleasure. And,
yes, anytime.
And I'm happy to support the band anytime. And, I'm looking forward to WifisFuneral, and I'm very excited now that you said acoustic stuff. That's like, now I'm all excited.
Yeah. We're filming it over at the Gibson House in the Hollywood Hills. So we'll do that Friday. I'll send you a link as soon as I get it.
Oh, fantastic. So there you go. And merci. Have a good day.
All right, man. Thanks, Mitch. Talk soon.
This has been Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. For more exclusive content and interviews, subscribe on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and many more. Follow Mitch on all the socials, especially Twitter, @Mitch Lafon, and on Instagram, @Mitch_Lafon. Get your Mitch merch now at loudtracks.com/Mitch.